Good morning. Thank you everybody for being here today. My name is Giovanni Modica. I'm a senior technical architect. I've been working in the Salesforce ecosystem for the last 9 years. You can find my Twitter handle there in case you have any questions after the meeting or after the conference. You can contact me and ask me questions if you want to. Okay, so the talk is called Lessons Learned from Salesforce-Heroku implementation. Okay, so this was a real implementation. And just to give you some context, what kind of project this was, here are some numbers. Okay, what I would like you to focus is on two of them. One is the amount of data. So we have like 80 million records for transactional and historical data. Okay, and that just what thing right there. I mean, you will probably design the system to have that kind of data outside Salesforce. Okay, and in our case, we wanted to have that data in Heroku. Also, another important key point is the number of users. Okay, we're talking about 3,500 users spread across whole Spain and Portugal. That will become important later when we talk about the limits. But for now, I mean, just that this was a very challenging project, and the most important thing, a successful one. Okay, and there are a lot of things that we learned from this project. Okay, so this is the agenda. I'll first introduce a simple scenario where I talk about Salesforce Connect and Heroku Connect. This talk is not about how to configure those things, but there's plenty of information on the web about that, but it's rather to see what are the key points that you need to take into consideration if you're doing this kind of implementation. We're going to talk about the performance, how the performance work when we use global search using external objects in Salesforce, and talk about some of the limits that we will encounter when we on each side, on the Salesforce Connect and the Heroku Connect side. Finally, I'm going to give, I would like to talk about tips, but it's actually one tip that how to use views as external objects. And finally, the Q&A. Okay, so the whole purpose of this talk is to, for you to know what are the key things that you need to keep in mind when implementing an integration with Salesforce and Heroku. Okay, we don't want things to blow up on your face because we didn't know these things. Okay, so hopefully I can achieve that. Okay, so let me briefly talk about Salesforce Connect and Heroku Connect. But before I do that, let's see how many of you are currently working or have worked in the past with Salesforce Connect and Heroku Connect. Please raise your hands. Okay, good. Okay, so let me give you a brief introduction. So Salesforce Connect. So Salesforce Connect is a technology that allows you to expose external data or access external data and expose that information as external objects in Salesforce. Okay, one of the advantages of that is that you can treat external objects pretty much as standard or custom objects. Okay, I mean you can access them in Lightning, you can use them in Apex, you can use them in reports. Okay, but of course there are some limitations to it. Okay. And Salesforce Connect, allows you to connect to different data sources. In this time, we will explore the ones that are in, the solid line. It means OData and the Apex custom adapter. Okay. On the other hand, we have Salesforce Connect. Okay. So, sorry, Heroku Connect. And Heroku Connect has two parts really. So the first part is data replication system. So it basically allows you to keep or replicate objects that you have in Salesforce, okay, either standard or custom objects, replicate those in a Postgres database on the Heroku side. And this synchronization is bidirectional. Okay, the other part is to expose another data source, okay, on top of this data. Okay, so you can access this data either using Salesforce Connect, okay, using your data adapter as we saw before, or you don't need to use Salesforce for that. I mean, you can use any other system that understand all data, like for example, MuleSoft, and access that data as well. Of course, they work together. It's better when they work together. So this is a simple diagram. Okay, one possible architecture where Heroku can be implemented. So, for example, we have on the right side we have the legacy systems. Okay, so let's for this example, let's talk about the domain of billing. Okay, so we will talk about invoices. So on the right side you have legacy system that will produce invoices. Those invoices will be sent to a message box. Message bus will then transfer those to Heroku. Okay, on the Heroku side, we have a web dyno, okay, implemented in Node.js that exposes a REST service that will allow the message bus to save invoices and invoices line. Okay, and then we have Heroku Connect that will expose that information as all data, and then use Salesforce Connect, of course, to consume the data and create external objects. These external objects will be associated with the account, and also this account will be replicated back to Postgres using Heroku Connect. Okay, so basically you have like the full picture in the Postgres database, which will allow other systems to connect to Postgres instead of connecting directly to Salesforce. Okay, and that might have some benefits, of course. Okay, so when we implemented this, everything looked fine, but then we realized, or we started to see some issues with this thing. Okay, first of all, let's talk about the. First let me give you a demo how this works. Of course. So what I have here is a Salesforce org, okay, which is connected to Heroku. Okay. So you can see here on the accounts, I have my list of accounts. Okay. And on the Heroku part, I have a Postgres database. And from here, you can see that we have those same accounts. Okay. So these accounts are being synced using Heroku Connect. Okay. Another thing is that I have some local tables, so to speak, here in Heroku. One of them is the invoice table. Okay, so you can see that we have some invoices. So this particular customer, the one that ends in A, they have three invoices. Okay, and in Salesforce, let's take a look at that account, which is this one. So we can see that those three invoices are related to the account using external objects. Okay. So now, for example, if I want to simulate that message bus I was talking about, so I'll send a new account, a new invoice for that account. Okay, I will use Postman for this. I'll hit the endpoint, the web dyno that is in Heroku, and I'm sending the invoice 005. Okay, so let's see how that looks like here in Heroku. So now if I refresh this, you can see I have a new invoice here. And of course, if I go to Salesforce and refresh the record, I will also see that new invoice attached to the account. Of course, I mean, you can click on it and see the details. Okay, so this data is not residing in Salesforce, but it is instead being queried on the fly from Heroku. Okay, and of course, I can do things like search for invoices. Like in this example, I see all the invoices here. Okay, and click on them to go to the details. Okay. So this is just a little example of how Salesforce Connect and Heroku Connect work together. So once you have this, okay, and you're dealing with a lot of data, we start to see some things that are not desirable, or at least they are kind of strange. Okay, so let's talk about first the global search. So as I showed you before, you can do a global search, and that global search will extend. I mean, other than searching the custom or standard objects, will also extend the search to external objects. Okay. The problem with that, when you do that, what happens is that Salesforce will use the contains operator. Okay, you can see the highlighted part here. So I grabbed this from the logs. Okay, you're using the developer console, so you can do a global search and see the logs. And immediately you see here that the operator contains is being used. Okay, and not only that, but it is also used on all the text fields that are in the external data source. Okay, so let's see what is happening behind the scenes. So when you start a global search, you start typing or hit enter in the global search, that will translate to the search to the external object. Okay, the external object is an OData, uses the OData adapter. Okay, so the search is converted to an OData query. And as we saw, it will use the filter contains. That will go to the Heroku Connect side. Heroku Connect will translate the OData query to a SQL query. So it can be used on a relational database as Postgres. Okay, and we all know that if we use contains, I mean, indexes will not be used. So that will result in a full table scan. And if that table has 1 million of records, the performance will be impacted. Okay, so eventually the query finishes and it will return some of the results, which we can just click and open the details for them, as we just saw before. Well, how can we? So this search was very slow because in this case the invoice table is huge. Okay, so how can we improve that? So we tried different approaches, and at the end, the one that suited us the best was to use what is called a custom Apex adapter. Okay, so you can create a custom Apex adapter, and that means that you can control what kind of data will be exposed to the Salesforce Connect, the connector. Okay, so you use Apex. Okay, you have to implement some interfaces or extend some classes. But what we did is, so we had our normal, which is in the one above, is our normal Heroku Connect adapter. Okay, so the OData adapter. So we disable searches on that adapter, and then we created our custom Apex adapter, and we enabled searches on that adapter. Okay, so once we did that, now the search changes like the following. When we do the global search will go against the custom adapter. That's where we enable the search. And the custom adapter, what we'll do is it will act as a proxy. Okay, basically it will take the query. Okay, and instead of using the contains, it will transform the query. I mean, we can do whatever we want, but we will use, instead of contains, we will use an equal operator, and we will only use that against some key fields. Okay, so we will issue that same query against the external object using Apex. Okay, and now the same process will happen, but now instead of using the contains operator, it will use the equal operator. Okay, and we all know that now. I mean, if we use an equal operator on an indexed field, it will use an index scan, and that will be much faster. Okay. So that's how we improve the search. So eventually, the search will go faster. We will receive the results. Now, when we click on those results, okay, it will again go against the custom adapter. Okay, and we didn't want to implement the full custom adapter logic. So what we did is, again, this custom adapter is acting as a proxy between in this case the search and the external. So what we did is, we override the logged-in actions, and what we do is we redirect the actual object to the actual external object. Okay, and this is how we solve this particular issue. Okay, so let's talk about limits. We all love limits, right? I mean, it's who there is no developer, a Salesforce architect who doesn't love, or developer who doesn't love limits. And so what kind of limits are we talking about? So when you see the documentation, you should read the documentation. You know that there are some limits there, but they start to appear whenever in the worst moment, like for example in UAT testing or even in production. Okay, so in our case, we have some errors that we discovered this before the actual go live. Okay, but we did need to do some things. Okay, so the first limit that we encounter is this one: the 200,000 all data callouts. Sorry, 20,000 all data callouts per hour. Okay, so 20,000 seems like a lot, right? So, but let's see what that actually means. Okay, so when we talk about callouts per hour, okay, data, so we're using an external object. That everything that you do with that external object counts as a callout. For example, if you see that all external object or related list, if you open the click on that record, if you use Apex, if you use global searches with it, all that counts. So every time you do that is one call out or data call out. Okay, and you only have 20,000 per hour. Okay, that might seem like a lot, but there is a problem with that. We have 3,500 users. Okay, so on average, each user will have 6 call outs per hour, and that is bad, right? I mean, you cannot tell the user that they can only open 6 invoices per hour. Okay. That's very bad. So if you read the documentation, you can see there that says, if you require higher limits, create a support case. And that's what we did. So to solve this, we log the case against support. Okay. Of course, every time you log a case with support, you need to justify why you need that. And so in our case, we did a study of the average number of callouts per hour that we needed. Okay. In our particular case, that number was 300,000, because that will give us around 86 callouts per hour per user. Okay, which in our case was okay. Okay, so we opened the ticket, and after a while, Salesforce increased the limit on the Salesforce Connect side. Okay, but we were still having some issues. Okay, like the one that you see on the screen. And well, it turns out that these issues were not on the Salesforce Connect side; they were on the Heroku Connect side. So again, if you read the documentation, you will see that there is 20,000 records per hour limit, okay, on the Heroku side as well. So we thought, okay, so let's open a new case with Heroku and explain, the why we need those 300,000. But it turns out that the Heroku guys were not as happy with the request as the Salesforce Connect one. So basically, the solution they gave us is that you need to buy as many Heroku enterprise plans as needed. So in our case, we needed 300,000 requests per hour, and our plan only allows for 20,000. Okay, that means that we needed 15 enterprise plans. Okay. So, after some discussion with the account manager and all, they were able to get a very reasonable price for those 15 plans, and the issue was solved. Okay, but it is important that you know these things when the project starts. Okay, I mean, if you're telling your customer that before going to production that you need to buy 14 enterprises plan, because otherwise you will encounter some limitations. I mean, that's not good, right? Okay, so more about limits. Okay, so there is this limit right here where we didn't know what this was. Okay, so it's actually they changed a little bit the documentation since we did this, and now it's a little bit more clear. But at the time we didn't know what this limit of 100,000 new external object IDs per hour means. Okay, and to explain that, let me give you an example. So what happens is Salesforce Connect, and this is a Salesforce Connect limit, okay? So Salesforce Connect keeps a table of the mapping between the external IDs, okay, and the Salesforce IDs. Okay? So in this case, as you can see in the slides, I mean, we have two invoices, okay, and those invoices are being presented in Salesforce as a related list, okay. So Salesforce, at the time that that happens, will create those two IDs, okay, and we'll keep that IDs associated to the external IDs, okay. It's like an internal map that they have in there. So, for example, if a new record comes in, Salesforce will first search on the mapping if that ID has a Salesforce ID, and if not, it will create a new one. Okay. So it turns out that you can only do 100,000 of those IDs per hour. Okay, and that is actually quite a lot. Okay, but the problem is in our case is that with the historical data. Okay, so this is a hard limit. It cannot be increased. I mean, we open a support ticket. We wanted this to be increased, and they tell us no. I mean, this will put a risk the pod, the multi-tenancy, and all that. So we had to deal with it. And our solution in this case was to prefetch those IDs before the actual go live. So we had some batch processes that will query the external data, okay, until eventually all those IDs were created before the go live. And now let me talk about some, enough about limits. Let's talk about some tips and tricks. I would love to, talk about all the things you can do with Heroku. We can use Heroku for data archiving, for batch processing of records. We can expose a REST layer on that. But one thing that I think is very cool, and maybe not everybody knows about it, is that you can expose views as external objects. Okay, and let me give you an example for this. So, in order to expose objects, the object needs to have a primary key. Okay, so there must be a field identified as a primary. Why is that? That is because of the process that I mentioned before, where Salesforce keeps the mapping between the primary ID of the object of the record and the Salesforce ID. Okay, so you need to have a primary ID. The problem is that views don't have primary IDs, right? I mean, views are just something on top of tables. Okay. Well, it turns out that it is possible for you to expose views as external object if you have a field called ID on the view. Okay. So this is one way of trick the Heroku Connect to expose that. So let me give you an example. So what we have here is a dashboard that was created for the IT department that basically shows all the logs that were created for the project. Okay, so at the beginning of the project, we only have like 6 logs. So this is pulling data from Heroku Connect. So let's go there and see our logs file. Oops. So if we select, we see what we have here. We only have 6 log files. Okay, so this is what we see here. Okay, but and this is fine. But let's see what happens when we add a bunch of data here. Okay, so I'll use this script right here to create 100,000 records. Okay, and so you can see 100,000 records were inserted. And now let's go and refresh our dashboard. Okay, so the first thing you will notice is it takes quite some time to load, okay, because it's actually reading 100,000 records, okay. And the other thing you will notice is that there is another limitation there, that your data will only give you the first 20,000 records, okay. So we don't have the full picture of what is actually going on with our integration. Okay, so you can see here, this data is only 20,000 records. Okay, but for this kind of dashboard, we don't need to have access to all the records, right? We just want like a summary of what actually happened there, okay? So one thing we can do is, so let's go here to Heroku, and let's create a view that will do a grouping of models and errors and do some, count on those errors, okay? And what I want you to notice is this. I have created a column called ID in my view. So now my view looks like this. Okay, so this is what I want. This is all the data aggregated. You can see there is an ID column. Okay, so now when I try to, if I go here to Heroku Connect, one thing you will notice is that Heroku Connect will allow me to expose this view as an external ID. This is another view you can see here, but this doesn't have an ID column. So Salesforce Connect, Heroku Connect doesn't allow me to select that. Okay, so once we expose our view, if we go back to here, so I created another dashboard, but this time is querying data from that view. Okay, so let's see what happened. So you can see this as it was before, but now if I refresh it, so the first thing you will notice is it's much faster. Okay, it's only querying 36 records as we saw before, and you can see that it gives you the full picture of course. Okay, so this is one way of tricking Heroku Connect into giving you the data that you need. Okay, so back here. So I'm pretty much out of time now. So let me go and do a quick summary of the lessons learned. So it is important that you do, so before implementing Heroku, it's important that you do a study, okay, and understand how your system or your users will make use of external objects, know what data volumes you're working with, and most importantly, number of operations per user, okay? You be careful with the platform limits, okay? Know them, so hopefully you now have a little better understanding of what those limits are in the world of the Heroku Connect integration, and know how you kind of work around them. Okay. Do not underestimate working with very large data. Okay. Every time I start a new project, the first question I always ask is, how much data are we dealing with here? And if they tell me that there are tens of millions, I start to worry. Make sure to bring all the considerations at the beginning of the project. Again, the example with Heroku Connect Enterprise plans. I mean, you want those to surface at the beginning of the project and not at the end. And finally, take advantage of whatever of Heroku. Okay, it's not only a repository for external objects. I mean, it can give you a lot of other things as well. Okay. Okay, good. So some resources here, and I think we have a little bit of time for Q&A. So if you have any questions,